Hello and welcome to episode 299 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is Patrick Knisley.
My name is Summer Rain.
My name is David Howe, and boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest joining once again on today's episode of the show. Yo, it is a podcast favorite. Welcome back, Jay Rios, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing, Jay?
Hi, thanks, Al. Thanks for having me back. Very happy to be here.
Jay is joining us to talk about the Switch 2 Direct and some of our predictions and speculation and hopes and just hype for that, because that is happening a week from when this podcast releases on April 2nd. And we've got a lot of good news this week. I'm really excited about this news week because everything in here is mostly positive or neutral. And I'm happy about that. We're going to be talking about the video game union that has launched. We're going to be talking about some possible returns of Game Informer. There's an accessibility initiative industry-wide, but Nintendo's involved with. And rumors about a different Direct. We'll get into that.
Who knows, man? The world is crazy.
We'll get into all that. But first, we're going to check in. How's everybody doing? How's your week been?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Kind of chilling at the moment. I want to give a shout out to Ron Leckler, friend of the show, who was on our Sega versus Nintendo episode. Got a tape playing in the back. If you're watching the YouTube version, I bought a couple tapes off of Ron's VHS store that he runs. One of them is called My Mom Smoked, which is a compilation of Sega videos and clips, which I think he named after the episode that we did with Ron. So I wanted to give a shout out to Ron. Also got a Mortal Kombat Fatalities compilation on VHS tape as well. So excited to have those in the background of today's episode.
Cool. I went to yet another PowerPoint party, but this time we were all assigned the same topic by the person who it was their birthday party. And they wanted us all to rank our top adult characters from My Hero Academia. And she wanted everybody to do it regardless of whether they knew it or not. And that made it extra special because there was one person in particular who put a lot of work into it, who knew nothing about all the characters and came up with fake powers and attributes for all of the characters as well.
Was that person you?
No, that person was not me. I was the only person in that room because I started my PowerPoint with, I'm the only person in this room who has actively cosplayed from this fandom, even though it was many years ago.
Sure.
So in some ways, I was the most qualified, besides the birthday girl, to talk about it. And it was just really fun. It was just a lot of fun. Make your friends do things that they don't know anything about.
Very cool.
So yeah, last week was spring break for my kid, and that was I think he had fun. My wife tried to make sure he could do some fun things, but it was a little stressful at our house because my mother-in-law came to stay with us as well. And so my wife was kind of taking care of two people all week on top of trying to juggle that with work and me working long hours. But we're back to regular normal life, which is good. Today was a good day. I mean, last week was fine. It was just a lot of things going on. Nothing like crazy, just busyness. So happy to be back in a regular routine.
Very cool. What about you, Jay? You have a good week?
It's been all right. Y'all caught me at the very end of my ankle surgery recovery. I'm supposed to get the boot off. Here, I need to. I'll show y'all for free.
Oh, boy. Yo, if that's not a reason to subscribe to the YouTube channel, I don't know.
Free feet.
Yeah.
So no, that's pretty much been my main focus, but it's been good. Been getting to spend a lot of time with my girlfriend, who has been wonderful. I've also been playing more games and still applying to jobs because I'm still unemployed, but it's okay. We're moving forward and things are good.
I feel like I might also be joining you in the unemployed thing. Not like now, but
I know,
I'm like,
still,
I'm like
sucks.
staring down the barrel of it, and I know it's coming, and I'm like, oh boy, I got to figure out a personal project. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I know you will.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Well, last week we did a episode on video game music. It was now that's what I call Video Game Music Volume 2, sort of a sequel of sorts. And we had a lot of comments, actually. So I'm going to try to blast through a few of these. Over on our Discord, we had a lot of really great conversation, including some comments from Real Tomato and Marth and AV. And I liked Cena, who called out the edit on the Buck Bumble drop that David did.
Thank you. I worked really hard on that episode, actually.
It was appreciated, it seems like. Several people noticed. We had a lot of comments also from people sharing examples like Kyle and I think Robo Lettuce maybe. Some other folks. Apologies if I missed you. We actually had a lot of really good conversation on the Discord. And then over on YouTube, we got some comments from our friend Hatstack Mike, who gave some of his favorite examples as well, and said in particular he likes the music in Sonic games, which even if the games aren't bad, at least the music's good. I like that. And then we heard from Phoenix Guitars, who made a comment about the AI and it being forced on us, which we kind of talked about, but also said that a great score can really enhance a game, and how audio is kind of like 90% of your video and that sort of thing. And that applies to video games, maybe with gameplay, not quite as much. And also shouted out the OG Castlevania soundtrack. So
shout out Todd Phoenix.
And then lastly, I did want to mention that Shade made this comment on our Discord, pointing out that episode 300 coincides with the Switch 2 Direct. And that's right, everybody. Next week is our episode 300, and we are going to be doing a big special, well, not like what we call a special episode, but we're going to be doing a big episode,
spectacular. Right? We'll be doing a spectacular, I think you could say. Yeah. The plan is to, as of right now, because that morning will be the Switch 2 presentation. So the idea at the moment is that Wednesday, April 2nd, that evening, we will be doing a live episode right here on the podcast. Okay. The idea is to get everybody back. It's both a celebration of 300 years of Switch Headz. 300 years. Excuse me. 300 episodes of Switch Headz. I took one little sip of brandy and I'm already off the deep end. But 300 years of Switch Headz. Can you believe it? And then also we will be breaking down the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, potentially this other Direct that might be coming earlier before that. We'll have to see if that is actually going to be a thing. But please tune in if you can that night, Wednesday night. We're going to have a live chat. And also we will be taking listener questions that we will be answering during the show as well, as we tend to do on these big celebratory episodes. So thank you guys so much for sticking around for all this. And I hope that you guys can tune in.
Definitely. And like David said, we'll take questions. So if you have something you want to submit in advance, please do send it to us between now and then, and we'll try to get to your question or comment. And make sure you listen all the way through today's episode for a little bit of a special announcement, somewhat related to that. And we'll talk about it at the very end. You better stay tuned. We always appreciate hearing from our listeners and viewers. So send us a comment and we'll try to shout you out next time. We also like it if you can help, promote the podcast, share it with a friend, post about it online. We've got a Patreon if you want to financially support the podcast. And we have a video version on YouTube in case you're not already there. Head over there and hit like and subscribe. And I think that means it's time for the news. First up, we're going to be talking about the union that I mentioned at the top. And that is that GDC happened last week. That is the Game Developers Conference. And that's sort of the biggest game developer conference, right, on the globe. And it's in San Francisco. It happened last week. And I think it was Thursday of that event, the CWA, the Communications Workers of America, who have, a big union, announced the United Video Game Workers Union, which is for workers in the US and Canada who work in the video game industry. And this is really cool because this is across the board a union, for just one big union that people can, associate with and join. I don't know. This gives me a lot of hope. The slogan on their like posters is "We're done playing." I don't know. I just like the timing, the way it was done, and the fact that it exists.
Yeah, no, this is excellent. I've been hearing rumblings about this going on in the background for a while now. It's really great that they were able to drop this at GDC when they're surrounded by people who can be right there in person to sign up, and get on the newsletters, get involved. This has been such a long time coming. I feel like this is a big full circle moment for the podcast in a lot of ways, because I feel like we've been talking for so long about how important it is to have a general union for the entire industry here, other than these kind of like little bespoke unions that end up being part of CWA anyway. This is like something that's a little bit more industry focused. This is going to make a united front, I think, both for smaller developers and for AAA devs. So I think that this is a really, really great step forward. I mean, obviously, this is very early days. And I think now that this union is out there, it's like time to actually start going to the negotiating table with a lot of, I don't know exactly who is going to be the kind of company here that they're like making demands with. Generally I know when this happens with IATSE, it's like kind of the head of all the different kind of movie studios and executives from the streamers and stuff like that. So I imagine it would be something similar with AAA developers and publishers as well.
Well, we'll have to see how this develops, but very cool. We hear a lot about studio closures. It's nice to hear about a new studio. This is a new first-party PlayStation studio was announced. That's called Dark Outlaw Games, founded by an individual who's worked on like the Call of Duty franchise a lot and actually had a previous PlayStation studio that was shut down. One of the reasons I put this in the news was that I have an acquaintance who's working at this studio and could finally share it. So shout out to Nick, who's working there. And I know that they actually said that this studio has been around for a while, but they, are kind of, I guess, at a point where they can at least publicly talk about themselves, which must mean their work is going well, right? So,
is there any word on what kind of game they're developing for the studio? I know it's an original IP.
Yeah, that's all we know. I think basically this kind of came out in an interview, and I think they said that, when they have something to share or when they can, they will. So it sounds like the guy's done a lot of work on various Call of Duty games, but I don't know that means anything. So I don't know what to say about that. New IP is cool though, too. I like that.
Yeah, sounds good. Maybe they're trying to get a Call of Duty competitor going,
That's what we need right now.
Yeah, Bungie didn't work out, right? So they're like, oh yeah, Microsoft owns Call of Duty now. Maybe it's time for us finally to make the phone of war. I don't know what they would call it.
The phone of war.
The phone of war. Yeah, there you go.
Well, next up is a bit of a possible revival for Game Informer, the video game magazine, it doesn't exist anymore, right? This video Game Informer was shut down, I don't know, not quite a year ago, but something like that, 8-ish months, I think is what it was. And over on Blue Sky, which is kind of cool that now we're talking about these reveals happening there. There was a couple of teases from both the Game Informer account itself, as well as several former staff members, kind of suggesting that Game Informer will be rebooted. And there was a March 25th date. So we're recording in it, before March 25th, but I think we can all safely assume that this means some sort of relaunch.
Yeah. And if it is, I think this also means a lot more than that too, which is that they were able to get the brand back from GameStop, which I think is super, super important here because, that is filled with these industry veterans, the Game Informer team here that have been around for so long, not just putting out magazines, but also maintaining the website, doing podcasts, having, just been involved with the industry for forever. And so, yeah, it's like in an era where we're seeing so many websites shuttered all the time, seeing somebody potentially going, from public to private and indie all of a sudden is really exciting to me. And I do hope that they can keep the print edition of the magazine going. We see through magazines like Nintendo Force that, indie Patreon backed magazines can sustain themselves. Nintendo Force has been putting out print magazines now for a very long time, almost a decade maybe. And so, even if it's a smaller operation and it's more subscriber based with, kind of web subscription, but to get something shipped to you, I think that's a great method for them to do it. We'll have to see, obviously, how this is going to look whenever it drops, but I'm really excited. Jay, were you ever a Game Informer subscriber?
I was way back in, I want to say like the early 2000s. I still have like maybe a couple years worth of old Game Informers at my parents' house. I haven't kept up with them recently, honestly, but I'm so glad they're back because that just seems like it's rare that I walk into a store these days and I see like a video game magazine anymore. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the Lego Nintendo collaborations continue. Obviously, this one's a little bit different, but we got some news this week that there are going to be Lego Pokemon sets starting in 2026. Pokemon has had Mega Block sets, which is the far inferior brick building set.
Editorialize a little bit more, why don't you?
I think it just is. The quality and everything else is just not as good. But you don't have to worry because in 2026, you can get you some Lego Pokemon sets. We don't know much about it. It's really just a teaser that they gave that kind of shows like a Pikachu tail and like a lightning bolts and stuff. And we got a ways to wait, probably, a year or so. But I imagine more details will come out. And that just makes a lot of sense. I'm surprised this hasn't happened sooner on some level, but I guess they had the Mega Block license. So
you're not an AFOM. An adult fan of Mega Blocks.
Seriously, it really isn't. It's not about like just a brand loyalty. Their quality just isn't as good, and then pieces and stuff. But
Summer, are you excited about this?
I have not bought Legos since I got divorced. They're expensive, and I pretty much only bought them for my ex-husband. I want to theoretically be excited about it, but like I know I'm not gonna be able to afford them. Like I haven't bought any of the Animal Crossing ones like I thought I was going to. I had thought about buying the Big Bowser. I never bought that. So we'll see what they put out.
Jay, are you gonna buy the Snorlax?
I was gonna say it's like there's one Pokemon.
See, and I'm like, I'd rather buy. Yeah, it would like if there's an Oshawott, because like I caved and I bought a Funko Pop Oshawott the other day just because I love Oshawott so much, even though I like have a hard stance on Funko Pops, right? So like if there was an Oshawott Lego set, like yeah, maybe, or like if there was other Pokemon that I'm just like, oh yeah, that's one that I really love. But I missed out on like the large Oshawott plushie. Like I'm more interested in, I don't know.
But yeah, if they come out with the Snorlax one, I will take out a loan. It's
you will though.
It's what I need to do.
You'll have to.
Snorlax Legos, come on.
Oh yeah.
Well, the NSO retro game library continues to expand. I think it's just honestly at this point it's really cool every time we get a drop. We got 4 new Super Nintendo games coming out later this week. They're all Koei games, I believe, and they're all like strategy turn-based games, not games I have ever played or am very familiar with, to be honest with you. I know several of them are franchises that once I kind of looked into this, like, wow, this is a long-standing big franchise. I just wasn't very familiar with it. Anybody familiar with any of these specific games? It's Nobunaga's Ambition, a couple of those, a Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and Uncharted Waters.
That's Nobunaga's Ambition.
Nobunaga's.
Yeah. I like Nobunga.
Nobunga.
I thought I was like, is that how you pronounce it?
No. I'm taking a stab at this. Never heard of this franchise.
I never played these games, but I was a big fan of Pokemon Conquest back in the day, which I think it's based off the same mechanics as Nobunaga's Mission. So I want to try it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the game in Japan, Pokemon Conquest, was just known as Pokemon Plus Nobunaga's Ambition. Yeah. So it's like definitely, it is through and through a part of that series essentially. But you've also got Romance of the Three Kingdoms 4, which is also another game from this company. These are all, like you said, strategy games. These are long running franchises. I have played one of the Romance of the Three Kingdom games for like the PS2 or something like that, whenever that came out. So that was a long time ago. That's when I was also getting into like Dynasty Warriors. So like anything like Chinese, I was like, ooh, this seems kind of cool. You know what I mean? Like back then. So definitely not really my style of game, but as I understand from a lot of people, and I think that is true with most strategy games, they hold up regardless of how old they are a lot of times because, the game design is all in the actual strategy. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter like how good the graphics are on a game like that. You're still racking your brain around like how to do some of these things. So last I've heard, the, Romance of the Three Kingdom franchise at least holds up really well. So if this is for you, great. Not for me, but I'm glad to see 4 Super Nintendo games drop at once.
Well, moving along to the Accessible Games Initiative, which was announced this past week. And Nintendo of America is one of the many, I believe, partners. Basically, this is, as I understand it, a tag system that is going to be widely adopted across all the major platforms so that players with accessibility issues can know and understand tags that relate to that, whether it's pertaining to specific disabilities or, difficulty or whatever.
Can you explain what a tag is exactly?
Yeah. So I think my understanding is that this is like basically like a game will be tagged with, I think there's an example that I could maybe pull up, but I don't have in front of me. So give me a second.
Well, I think it's just like genres in the same way that you tag genres or price points. Like there's already tags for those things in the online shop, like for how much a game costs and what genre if it's into. Is it multiplayer? So this is an additional tag.
Right. So if your game has a certain amount of accessibility options, it would have more tags, I would imagine.
Right. So like, for example, there are ones related to audio that say like stereo sound or surround sound or narrated menus.
Gotcha.
And there's someone that's like large text. And so you can, in theory, if that's important to you or necessary for you, you can quickly look and see if these games are tagged because they should be across these platforms. So that's pretty cool. And maybe that'll evolve into something else, but at least that's my understanding of what it is for now.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, obviously Nintendo's not the only one here. It's nice to see the ESA actually doing something productive for the games industry here and for gamers in general, those with disabilities. It's very important. I think video games are like some of, that's an amazing activity for people with disabilities, having good accessibility options is paramount, I think, in video games. Having something that is akin to the ESRB here, but for accessibility, I think is fantastic. I can't wait to see all this implemented in what will almost certainly be the revamped Switch 2 eShop.
Well, next up is the baseball team, the Seattle Mariners, who have a long relationship with Nintendo and specifically Nintendo of America, have announced that their jerseys for the upcoming season or rest of the season, I don't follow baseball, are going to feature Nintendo logos. So I think it's their home jersey, if I'm not mistaken, that just has like sort of the classic Nintendo on it. And their away jersey will have a Switch 2 logo on it, which is pretty crazy. Pretty crazy to see, like, before it's even like super announced and stuff, these baseball players, And I think even like one of the Mariners players is going to have a special like promotional relationship with Nintendo, I read as well somewhere, when like, on a spin-off of this. So sounds like they're going all in. Big year for Nintendo, I guess, to promote their games, right? So,
yeah, I mean, like you said, there's a long history with the Seattle Mariners here. Obviously, Nintendo of America is in Redmond, Washington, so that's kind of their baseball team, right? I think Hiroshi Yamauchi back in like the 90s actually was part owner of the Seattle Mariners. And then that's kind of just continued to be part of Nintendo's investments, which is kind of crazy. But pretty cool. I mean, obviously, I think you have Arakawa to thank for a lot of that, being the head of Nintendo of America in Redmond at the time. But yeah, I mean, this is just, there's not really much to say about this story other than it's kind of funny and a little surreal. And it also just kind of drives home like how boring the Switch 2 logo is. It's just the Switch logo with a 2 next to it. It's like about as basic as it can get, but boy, howdy, does it drive the message home that this is a sequel to the Switch, right? So good for them for getting it embroidered, I suppose.
Why is the logo only on the away uniforms?
It's on, the Switch 2 is on the away, but then on the home, they have just like the sort of classic Nintendo logo.
Do they not want anyone from home to buy Switch 2? I don't get it. That's weird.
That's true. They assume everybody. Maybe they'll be giving out Switch 2s so you can track the scores and stuff. I think there was like actually a Mariners DS app, if I'm not mistaken, where you could go through. It would show live the scores for the games, and then also you could order food. I'm pretty sure from the DS app. So maybe they'll do something similar this go around.
Bring it back.
Yeah,
bring that back.
But I think more than anything, I think the lack of a Switch 2 logo on the home jerseys means that there is another Nintendo console that Nintendo hasn't revealed yet. Maybe one we'll hear about in an upcoming Direct. I don't know. Virtual Boy 2. I think it's time.
It's happening.
Yeah.
Well, our final bit of news here is something that just kind of was making the rounds a lot today, the day we're recording this, that is on Monday, and kind of throws a wrench in a little bit in our discussion, but we're going to have it now. And that is that a lot of people, insiders and leakers, are saying that there is going to be a Nintendo Direct happening this week, specifically Thursday, presumably related to original Switch 1, whatever we're calling it, games and such. And I think what's lending a lot of credence for me, and I'm sure some of us here, is Nate the Hate, who has a really good track record on, saying these sorts of things, has said that it is a Direct and it is happening Thursday.
Or around Thursday.
Or around Thursday.
On or around Thursday. Is what
he's really specific usually, and I think it's always good to pay attention to his wording, so that's good clarification.
Yeah. But in addition, I mean, he didn't say, I've heard that there might be a Direct. He said there is a presentation this week. Right? So it's like, I'm kind of mad. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, man.
Come on, Nate.
No, I mean, Nate's just reporting it like he sees it. And like, there is no reason at this point to ever distrust Nate the Hate. Like, I feel like he's been wrong maybe once or twice. Like, and specifically recently with all the most recent Direct stuff, like whoever he's got on the inside has not really steered him wrong.
And I'll also say the few times he's been wrong has usually been something that bore out to be true later. Maybe he's been wrong straight up before, but some of the stuff he's said. But anyway, that's beside the point. Let's just assume for a minute that this is true, because I think it's very likely. Obviously, that means people listening to this will probably know. So we don't have to spend a lot of time about like whether or not it's real. What do y'all think? Like a mini?
Yeah. I mean, what my initial thought is that if this is true, I kind of don't see it being a partner showcase, because I feel like most third-party partners are going to want to save their games for Switch 2, because most of the new games that are going to be coming out from third-party partners are not going to play very well on the original Switch. We're seeing that already with the Steam Deck, right? It's like, I feel like a lot of the games that are coming out that I'm actually like pretty excited about, I'm finally like not really able to play on my Steam Deck in any like good capacity, right? So certainly the Switch is going to have a hard time with like newer AAA games, and we'll be talking about that in the main topic here when we talk about Switch 2 predictions. But I think that this is saying to me that the Switch 2 Direct will have nothing about Switch 1 games in it, and that it'll be entirely Switch 2 focused, right? Like, because I kind of thought it might be a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, and kind of be this bigger presentation. But it feels like maybe they're splitting up what would have been a bigger Direct into these two separate presentations. Yeah, I've got more I could say, but I want to get y'all's thoughts on it first.
I'll just briefly say that I agree. I think that's what I see that making sense, because when we were going to plan for talking about this in the Switch 2 Direct, I was thinking, what are they going to announce for Switch 1? And are they going how are they going to fit in Metroid Prime 4 Beyond? But I think this is the solution, that they just break out stuff that is obviously anything that can be played on Switch 1 can be played on Switch 2, but anything that's kind of aimed at Switch 1 or players is going to be here. And maybe that's why I think it's a mini. And I think the focus is Metroid Prime, and we date it, and we have like 1 or 2 remasters, remakes that
Shadow Drop, maybe.
Yeah. And like maybe some NSO news or something. I don't even know. And it's just kind of a short 20-minute thing about those things. And maybe there is some third-party stuff, but it's more like, classic collection type stuff that isn't new, if you will, per se.
UFO 50.
Yeah, maybe.
My headcanon with UFO 50 is still that they're holding it for the Switch 2 because they're going to make a physical dock container of the classic console that the Switch 2 will slide into, and it'll become the UFO 50 experience. But you don't want to do that for the Switch 1 because Switch 2 is coming out. It's got a different form factor.
Yeah, you're right.
But do you believe this summer? Like, what do you think we'd see here?
I mean, like you guys were saying, not really a reason to not believe Nate the Hate, but also we have been told that there would be directs in the past, and then it ended up being like the Alarmo and the music app, right?
Right.
So
totally.
maybe this is just like, in addition to Donkey Kong, we're also getting a Piranha Plant ride at the theme park or something. Like,
sure.
I'll take it.
Right? It might not even have anything to do with games. It could be Nintendo coffee pot I was talking about the last time we talked about predictions. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Time to start getting our themed game beans. Let's go.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of that, it isn't on the news, but Alarmo did get a big update actually this past week. I'm not joking. It was like sleep sounds were extended from 5 minutes to up to an hour, which is awesome because the sleep sounds are actually really nice on Alarmo, and a bunch of really cool updates. So definitely stuff is happening, but I mean, that wasn't saved for a direct, So it's like, I think you might be onto something, though. I think that they might be doing a video on their new store, the San Francisco store, which is coming out May 15th.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
It could just be that. Yeah.
It could be something kind of like that.
Right? Because they've done announcement videos for like the museum and you're right.
Right. And it's not, it's like they've got a lot of stores in Japan, but not very many in the US. So I could kind of see them doing something there. Yeah, I don't know. I do think that there is still a lot to announce with the Switch 1. And I would imagine that most of the directs going forward are going to be a combination of games that are coming out for Switch 1 and are backwards compatible on Switch 2 and exclusive for Switch 2. And they'll just have some kind of nomenclature within them. But I think it would make sense to kind of split off Switch 2 stuff. If I'm just daydreaming here, what I'd love to see, obviously, I think Metroid Prime. I think I'd love to see a shadow drop of 2 and 3 with a release date for 4 or something similar to that. We've talked about it before, but I think a Ring Fit Adventure sequel would definitely behoove them. Maybe this is kind of like also where they talk about some new NSO stuff. And then next week, they kind of like expand on it even further. It does seem weird that they pushed the February Direct so far back.
Yeah, and just to give it a little more credence too, when you look at, the announcements about the April 2nd Direct, they are very much labeled as like Nintendo Switch 2, offering a closer look at Nintendo Switch 2. It is called the Nintendo Direct : Nintendo Switch 2 on their website and stuff like that. So I guess I just assumed there would be, stuff relevant to the Switch, but kind of could make a lot of sense.
And there's precedent for it too. I think before, maybe it was 2015, there was a big E3 presentation, and a week before they dropped a Direct as well. So it's not like completely unheard of that this would happen. It's just, in the kind of modern era, it's a little odd.
It is weird. I think if they're going to talk about Switch 1, it's going to be like a goodbye. It's like, this is the last we're going to talk about Switch 1 games.
It just plays Pikachu's goodbye from the anime.
Because
it just gets really sad.
It wasn't there like a recent Direct that felt like that? Like it was, we're getting all the Switch 1 stuff out of the way before we start talking about the Switch 2.
Yeah, but it might be even more on the nose of what it might like actually be we're sending off, here are all the memories we've had with the Switch. Like,
Wow.
That's kind of what I think it could be.
wow.
I mean,
We'll see. We'll see. I'm not Nate.
I'd love to see Doug Bowser chop a Switch in half with a katana.
I'd like to see him do anything, man.
Yeah, right. It would be nice to see him do anything.
Do
You're
literally
right.
Nice if he
anything.
showed up to work.
Yeah.
Reggie Fils-Aimé, he is not. But I think that they will be continuing support for the Switch for several years, like the original Switch, right? Like I think that there will be lots of stuff that comes out for the original Switch for a while. And I think that they want the Switch to be the best-selling console of all time. And I think that if they continue supporting it, they drop the price, which maybe this is the point where they announce a price drop for the Switch One. That would also make a lot of sense. But, you know, if they do that, I think that it's inevitable that they will hit that number.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for our news. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking all about our predictions and hopes for the Switch 2 Direct. All right, we are back, and we're talking about the Switch 2 Direct. So this is happening on April 2nd at 8 a.m. Central Time in the US, because that's what all of us are in. You're going to have to do the math if you want to figure out what that is for you.
6 Pacific, 9 Eastern.
There you go. You don't have to do it unless you're Mountain Time.
Yeah, Mountain Time, you're on your fucking own, man. I've been looking after your ass for too long. That ends today.
So this has been billed, as we just kind of talked about, as a Switch 2 Direct. And I now am inclined to believe more than ever that it is exclusively focused on this, but we're going to get into that and also, you know, what we expect to see about the hardware, software, anything, all those sorts of things. But maybe we should start off with talking about release date, because there has been a lot of discussion about this and could have been a news item if we weren't going to be talking about this as our main topic. So, David, do you want to lead us in with a little bit of this theory that's been going around?
Yeah. So there's this guy on Twitter named Thunderstash Gaming who has kind of put together a little bit of a theory that the Switch 2 may be dropping a little earlier than we think. So this is kind of one of the leading sort of predictions kind of just from the community right now, is that May 15th might be the day that we actually see the Switch 2 dropping. Now that would be considerably shorter between the kind of full breakdown video of what the Switch is with release date and price and everything, like we saw in January 2017 before the first Switch came out. You know, that had a longer period between, you know, what would be April 2nd and May 15th. But there's a lot of like really interesting kind of things to take into account here. I mean, one of them is that, you know, we're just in a faster news cycle generally these days. You know, I think Apple announced their new iPhone about 2 weeks before they actually released it. So if they're trying to kind of follow suit a little bit with trends in tech, that would kind of behoove them in that way. And I think that's also kind of just how Nintendo's been trending lately in general. The first trailer and this big direct being kind of an exception there, having about 2 months was a pretty big thing there. But I think there was some other stuff too. Obviously the store releasing on that day, which is on May 15th. That's a Thursday. I think what else? Doom the Dark Ages drops that day, which would make for a pretty high profile third party game to release on launch with the game. And I think another big one that they talk about, and there are some others here as well, you know, Lego Mario Kart stuff being among them. But I think the biggest thing is that that shipment rumor that we heard about, that basically, you know, several 100,000, I think it was like almost 400,000 units were said to have been shipped from one of their plants in Vietnam to the US, right? And that's just one of the manufacturing plants where they know that they're actually making these things. So if that's the case, then they're right now, and that was back in January when those shipping manifests were said to have happened. If that's the case, then there might be several million Switch 2s already in the US right now. And, you know, I think the prevailing theory on when the Switch 2 is going to drop has been June for a really long time. And I think that made kind of the most sense to me. made a lot of sense to most kind of gaming pundits out there. And I think a lot of why that is, and I promise I'll wrap up here in a second, was that Nintendo Switch experience in South Korea, right? So in Seoul, I think it's at the end of May, almost into the beginning of June, they are doing that Nintendo Switch experience that we're getting earlier in the year here in the States and in Japan and in Europe. They're getting that much later than we are, and I actually I misspoke on last week's episode. If you watch the YouTube version, I put a little annotation in there. But yes, it is at the end of May. So I think that kind of stopped me from thinking that they would release anytime before June originally. But as was pointed out here by Thunderstash Gaming, Korea has always, even as far as the most recent Switch, had a later release date than the rest of the global rollout. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but it would follow precedent. But I don't know what you guys think about like release date. If you guys still feel like it's the same old as far as your predictions are concerned, but that's certainly one thing we will be learning from this direct, almost certainly. Do you guys have any predictions for that?
I'm on board with this. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think the 2-month delay between the reveal trailer and this may have had more to do with leaks, and them wanting to put something out to kind of confirm / officially state something that kind of corroborated all of the leaks, but then left all the things we were still wondering about. Mm-hmm. And I can't help but wonder like that I just feel like this makes a lot of sense. Whether it's June 1st or May 15th or whatever, that's not like a big difference, but I think whatever it is, it's going to be a pretty short window, and a month and a half-ish sounds reasonable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it would also make sense, I think, to get it out before Memorial Day and kind of before summer. So it's like, as a lot of people are traveling, they already have these things in hand. The people that are going to be getting this day one, doing a little bit of free advertising for them, right? I know early on in the Switch's life, it was a conversation starter to like have at an airport. Like I talked to many people about my Switch when I first had that early in its lifespan, right?
It makes sense. Just get it out there. Like, I know there's been leaks before. This felt like the most like definite Nintendo system leak ever. I could be wrong. So I would imagine Nintendo's just like, all right, let's get it out there. That kind of also makes me, because of that direct happening, I already forgot, this week before the 2 one or whatever. That makes me think they're going to get it out earlier.
Oh,
well, we'll know soon enough, right? Because I think that has to be part of this. But maybe we can move along then to just kind of talking about the format and maybe big picture content of this presentation. Do y'all see this being something a little different than a traditional games direct? Do you think this will be who is going to be in it and showing off this stuff, or is it going to be more like pre-rendered videos? And do you think we'll see hardware and software? I'm kind of lumping those together, so you can break it apart if you want. But what do y'all think about format?
I hope they do something special. I've been kind of missing that goofy Nintendo charm in their videos, but kind of like what we were joking about earlier, they don't really have an admin that does that anymore. And my fear is that my fear is going to come true, and it's just really literally going to be, all right, this is the Switch 2. It is the Switch, but a little bigger and more powerful. Here are some of the games. What I'm hoping for is that it will be, and here are 5 attachments, and here are all the different options of how you can buy it at the beginning. And like, I want them to bring puppets back. I don't know. I want the whimsy. I hope for the whimsy, but but I don't know that they're on that track anymore.
Yeah, I that's an interesting point. I went back and watched that most recent 2017 kind of like Switch presentation, that stage event that they did. And it was kind of a combination of a few things. It was like kind of the dry, and this was before Furukawa really took over at Nintendo. So it was still, I'm actually forgetting the name of the interim president who was around at that time, post Iwata, but it was a lot of that kind of dry, almost like E3, just this is talking to investors from the stage. But then there's a lot of really wacky stuff in there. And I think some of the stuff that really stood out to me from that presentation was when Koizumi came out and showed off a lot of the features of the system. Right now, I think that is probably inherently going to be less of a thing because that was a whole brand new concept at the time, showing off the Switch. But there still was a lot of really interesting things that he was able to show there, like the features of the Joy-Con, kind of lounging on the couch with one arm up and the other like this, or the famous how many ice cubes are in the Joy-Con with the HD Rumble sort of demonstration that he was able to do. There's also just like silly stuff where he was kind of blasting off into space and all this like wacky, things amongst game trailers and stage presence and stuff like that. I don't think we'll be getting as much of that this time, but I do think that it's been a while since we've seen Koizumi, and I think that we already know that there are features specific to Switch 2 that are not in Switch 1 that will need demonstration, right? Obviously the mouse Joy-Con being a huge one of them, but I think a lot of emphasis is going to be on that C button, right? Like that new button that's on one of the things. I think what that means, I think that's going to be a whole segment in and of itself here. And then, like you said, Summer, I think that this is also a good opportunity to potentially show some attachments and show the modularity of this console beyond just it being a tablet that you put Joy-Cons on. We kind of played with that idea with Labo, but here there's a chance to really make it kind of a feature set of the new console in general. So I definitely think that could be a thing. And as far as, format of the show, I think if you'd asked me before today, I would have said that it would have been a pretty long presentation. But now, that it's seeming like there's going to be a direct this week, and B, this is coming out at 6 a.m. Pacific time. I can't see this being a super long presentation, right? I feel like most times that they've dropped stuff at early in the morning like that, it's been minis, it's been Pokemon Presents, which have been like kind of shorter presentations. So I don't know. I feel like around like maybe 20 minutes to me feels about right. What do you think? Patrick, what do you think about the format?
I was going to say 20. I think it might be even drier, to be honest with you, than
really?
I agree with y'all that I hope that it's got some excitement, and I think it will. Like you said, I think we will maybe see some silliness, but like I think it's going to be a little bit drier and more like a direct for games, but also kind of focused on, and these are the hardware features and stuff. Because if it is really in part about this being more powerful, then I think they have to kind of explain that, and that's kind of boring and dry stuff. If the whole attachment thing is true and they're showing that off, then I do think that is more exciting and a little more wacky and less dry per se.
You don't want to see 10 minutes on mouse mode?
Yeah, like because I am really curious because I don't understand it, right? Because I want to see how it works with like a couch and with games and what wacky game they've created. And I think maybe that's another place where there's wackiness, because I do think whether or not there's a heavy emphasis on software, I think we're going to see this Mario Kart game again. Mm-hmm. Again, this is maybe changing the subject a little bit, but maybe it's a natural time to talk about this. Like how and what kind of software they're going to show off. I think since they've already shown this Mario Kart game, I think it's likely they will show it again. I don't know how much this will be exclusively about the system, but I think it would make sense to show off a couple of new games that tie into it, that being one, and then probably some sort of, I don't know, Switch 1-2 type game that's features the mouse mode that's kind of gimmicky, or features an attachment if the attachments are a launch thing that we see here and are real, which I'm still not sure about, though I hope for. So yeah.
I mean, what is it? I think it's EPD10 or something is the 1-2 Switch developer. They're kind of the people that do all the wacky shit. Excuse me, it's not EPD10, it's EPD4. They do 1-2 Switch, they did Labo, they did Game Builder Garage, they did I think they maybe did Ring Fit. I'm not entirely sure, but I would wager that they also had a lot to do with that NSO playtest as well.
We actually know who did that.
Yeah.
There were some patents or something that revealed it, and it's actually the Splatoon Animal Crossing team.
Oh, okay. Or was it the whole team, or it might have just been the producer?
They only
director?
they credited certain people, and they are all people from that team. So it could be a mix, but it's people who worked on the Splatoon and Animal Crossing series.
Got you.
That got credited in a patent or something. We didn't put that in the news because it was a couple of weeks ago and it just didn't seem that big of a deal. But
no, it's all good. I mean, that also makes a ton of sense. I think that's, that whole team and the leadership of that team, I think, are some of the rising stars really at Nintendo, in that they have some of the freshest new ideas, like, constantly. I mean, even though ARMS was kind of maligned, and I don't think was like the best game overall, had some really interesting, unique ideas, especially when it came to online play. So that makes a little bit of sense. But yeah, we're definitely being sidetracked there. What do you think, Jay? What do you think about like the format of the show? Like, what do you think we'll see out of the show? Like, how do you think they're going to be presenting the Switch 2 to us?
I am imagining, I'm thinking two things here. Like, it's going to be just Switch 2. And like, I definitely agree with, they want to keep the Switch 1 going. I feel like this is them going to be like, here's how we're going to convince you to buy a Switch 2 if you already bought a Switch. I'm hoping. So I do think they are probably going to go over attachments. I'm praying for a camera. I would love a Game Boy camera sequel. And yeah, I guess I'll go over more predictions with the specific attachments later. But I also think they need to show off one other just super hot surprise game. Like Mario Kart is obviously going to sell. I think they need like one other thing that they're going to announce there.
Mm-hmm.
What do y'all think that would be? Because I agree. I think that makes sense. One other big surprise game. Because I think there will be a game that's not that exciting that features all this mouse mode or whatever, or attachments. And it'll be like, oh, that looks fun and cool, but isn't going to convince me to buy it.
None of us.
But Mario Kart and blank do. What is that for y'all?
Well, I mean, I think that we will be seeing a new 3D Mario game here at this presentation. I think that has been a heavy rumor going into this. Not that there's any like really hard data. There's no like Nate the Hate being like it's going to come out, but it's like I think that it's crazy that we never really got any solid DLC for Mario Odyssey. It's crazy that we never really saw the Bowser's Fury formula turned into anything beyond like a 2.5-3 hour game. I think that they have clearly been holding that close to the chest, and a new 3D Mario is really going to get, that's exclusive to Switch 2. That's really going to get butts and seats. That's really going to get people really excited about the new console. And that's going to go beyond just the people that are already going to buy this day one and probably go all the way to kind of the normie audience. Mario has that crossover appeal with normal people, right? So I think that is almost certainly going to be a thing. When you bring up mouse mode, that really makes me think that they are going to show off a game that will utilize that functionality here in this presentation. And my mind goes to a couple things. It goes to Mario Paint, and it goes to or some kind of application sort of thing that is, beyond just kind of a game, right? That definitely feels to me like a 1-2 Switch developer sort of project, something that is creative and puts a lot of stuff out there, right? I think it's that. And then I think Mario Maker 3 also makes a ton of sense for mouse mode as like a mouse mode showcase, right? Yeah. Beyond just like third-party PC style game support, which I think we also will see a lot of third party here. But before we get into that, did you have any thoughts on kind of games that we might see here, Summer?
Yeah. You said Mario a few times, and I think that I am of the belief that there would be at least one other like flagship of like the big four that we would see. And when you're talking about like an application or something that's on the more creative side, I do think Animal Crossing. I think we could see something Animal Crossing at launch. I think with the success of when we think about like the amount of Switches that Animal Crossing New Horizons moved, and if they're wanting to move new units of this new system, that they are going to want to capitalize on that. So, we recently did get a Zelda game. I do think we'll get a new Splatoon, but maybe not quite at launch. I feel like it would be a couple of months in, because that tends to be the trend. So my money's might be on Animal Crossing.
I think
something, even if it's not like a new, like, but something.
I think you saying that reinforces something I've thought for a while, which is that this is brand new territory for Nintendo. Having a second console is a long cycle that we've come out of. I think they are used to this sort of swing up and swing down, where, Wii U did bad, Switch does well, whatever. And they really might want to avoid that. And they might come out hard. I'm not trying to get anybody's hopes up or like hype us up to expect everything, because I think that's where I'm heading. But like, I could see them taking several big franchises. And even if it's not like we're launching with this game, but like you said about Splatoon, showing just clips of it, you know what I mean? Where everybody...
Yeah.
And maybe not even acknowledging it, kind of things, stuff like that, where everybody's like, there was a new Splatoon in that trailer, you know what I mean? Like, or a new Animal Crossing, and maybe those come out 6 months plus later. But
exactly, because Mario Odyssey didn't come out at launch, but it's still considered a launch title because it came out within, I think, the first 6 months of the Switch being released. So, yeah, I could see that for Splatoon especially.
Yeah, that's a good call. I think that we will see a lot of we'll see like a sizzle reel of like new Nintendo first party games that don't get big deep dives.
Yeah.
And it's like, they don't get titles, they don't get release dates. We saw that with the very first Switch reveal. Like, they showed Mario running around in the desert or whatever. And you're like, okay, new 3D Mario game. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it's called, but it was just like a little bit of a tease. I think we'll be getting a lot of that this direct for sure.
Well, maybe we can step back to the hardware for just a second and kind of talk about the screen, the possibility of color variants and attachments. I want to talk about what y'all think about those sort of things. Another thing we could have put in the news is that there's been a lot of rumors recently about the screen, and in particular about like an LCD screen, but with a super high refresh rate, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember.
Yeah, 120 hertz is what they were saying.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And HDR, and I don't really even know what, and supporting other, sort of like refresh rates and stuff like that. So
right. Yeah. Variable refresh rates is actually a pretty big deal. The Steam Deck OLED supports that, and it actually makes for such a smoother experience. And it's essentially, it's as your game might be dropping in frame rates or whatever, it's not like at odds with the refresh rate of the screen, which can cause a lot of like judder when a game kind of has a variable. Yeah, exactly. So having VRR is actually really helpful for a handheld, and then that'll also work with TVs that support VRR as well.
So that's the rumor, though. Obviously, we've heard some people, still want an OLED and all that. But I guess we'll find out. But that has been a new thing as well. Do y'all think they'll show off any color variants at this? Or do you think that's maybe a later thing, if it exists at all?
Yeah, historically, they don't usually do variants at launch. I mean, I guess the Switch could be a little different with the Joy-Cons, though, because we've known that the Joy-Cons... I'm saying this out loud. I mean, didn't the new 3DS have like face plates that were kind of announced at launch as well? So that could be a thing for this, because there is such a huge aftermarket of swappable plates that maybe they would want to get on top of that with it being like their own first party. Oh, I hope so.
I could definitely see that. I could see like there being some things that they would normally have for like a pro console, like the new Nintendo 3DS and stuff like that they work into Switch 2 at launch. Like maybe it's something they wanted to put into a pro Switch that ended up being the OLED, and they were like, all right, let's just cancel these ideas and hold it for the next system. So I could definitely see them doing some stuff like that. My mind beyond just like color variations, which I think could be a thing, is different price variations. And that's not out of precedent either. The last time we saw that was with the Wii U's launch, right? The Wii U launched, I think, with was it a $299 and a $349 model, or maybe it was
so.
Maybe it was
right.
$250 and $299. I forget exactly, but it was the white version of the Wii U, which had kind of less storage space, and then the black version, like the deluxe version or whatever of the Wii U, which had more storage space. I think there was maybe something else that was different about it, but it was mostly just like an extra 32 gigs of memory or something. Like it was like not that big of a deal, but I could see them doing something kind of similar here. I don't know what they would do other than just storage space that would make you want to buy something bigger, because I don't think we'll be seeing like an OLED model and an LCD model here at launch. I don't know. Can you guys think of anything that might
a light kind of situation where something's just handheld, maybe for a cheaper price? Like you don't get a dock, or I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't think that's gonna happen though. But
I mean, if the games are like all running at like 4K upscaled or whatever, that would kind of be shooting themselves in the foot, I think, to go with right off the bat, like a version that is, kind of gimped at launch, right? So I don't know. It's interesting. I think you could maybe see, I don't know. I think it kind of just maybe be like storage space, but I don't know who'd fall for that, because, it's like you could get 2 terabyte SD cards now for like not that expensive. Right. Yeah.
I don't think they would do this because it would be a bad idea since it's backwards compatible confirmed. The only thing I could think of would be like a digital exclusive version, but that sounds like a bad idea because you won't be able to play your Switch 1 cartridges on it.
Yeah. That is odd, but man, I kind of see it happening.
So it's going to happen.
Well, I mean, I think the industry in general is going towards digital, right? I mean, I don't buy physical games for the Switch. I mean, I think I have I think I maybe have 4 physical games for the Switch. Almost the vast majority of the games I have are digital, which is why I'm so excited that the eShop is carrying over and all my purchases are going to the next system, right? I could kind of see them doing it, I think. I think Nintendo is not, they're not somehow like immune to the fact that like their digital games make them more profit than like printing physical copies and having retailers take a bit off the top. You know what I mean? True. So it's like, I think that they also have a lot to benefit by the games industry going entirely digital.
Well, let's talk about attachments because, this isn't confirmed that this exists, but, we know it has ports on the top and the bottom, and we've seen fans do mock-ups that look really convincing for what things they could do with these ports. I guess, do you think attachments are real and would be shown here? And what do you think we might see at this thing? I know, Jay, you had mentioned you might have some ideas, or was it just that you wanted a camera?
I want a camera more than anything. And I could see them announcing this because I remember, I guess it was Wii U. You could take a picture and it would make a me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could see them.
You could do video chat on the Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Certain games. Yeah.
Yeah. You could use your Wii U as a TV remote. There was a lot of crazy shit you could do with that console. Yeah.
So I could see them like kind of wanting to do that. It's like, hey, take a picture of yourself, put yourself in it or whatever.
And kids love that. Like my son loved doing that with like the 3DS and the little built-in apps that you could do that with.
I was about to say, I think they would probably come out with some like free, I forgot what it was called, the one where your face is all the helicopters on 3DS. Mm-hmm. Some form of that.
Face Raiders, I believe.
Face Blaster, Face Raiders.
Yeah. I wish a camera was just built into the bezel, because I do think that it's opens up a lot of gameplay possibility. But Summer, what do you think about attachments? I mean, we heard the term Switch attached as much as like 3 years ago, right?
Right. I would like to see some VR with some first party Mario game or just first party Nintendo games. Yeah, like just and we've seen it. We saw them retrofit VR into some Sony games when they started to, they would announce that a certain aspect of a certain game would be in VR. So I'm still kind of holding out for that. Again, Animal Crossing, I think that would be really nice.
Wow. First person Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
Lord have
so you
mercy.
already
I would love that.
you already have first person. You already have first person camera mode in
Yeah.
Animal Crossing. You can walk
Mhm.
around. So it almost makes me think like maybe it was already in progress, or development, or it's just like a thought for the next game. VR really is my number one hope, though. I would really like to see it happen with Nintendo.
Yeah. I think we'll see again. I think this will be a sizzle reel sort of thing. I think they'll show like really quickly a few like potential things that the top USB-C port allows. You know what I mean? And it'll be like, here's some shit you can do, right? And then they'll kind of drop it. It'll be more questions raised than answered. And then it'll be like kind of in developers' courts to see if they want to utilize any of these functionalities. But I could see that us kind of walking away with this being like, what did I just see? You know what I mean? I think that is definitely possible. I think outside of hardware, though, I think we will be getting a lot more like software stuff. I can see them putting a big focus on UX and UI here. I think showing off a revamped eShop, they've got to know people are pissed off about the eShop and how it all works. You know, they killed vouchers for Switch One games. I think the day we're recording this maybe is actually the final day to use your gold points, right? Or not
to
use
earn
them,
them,
to earn them. Yeah,
Oh,
you can still use them, but you can't earn them anymore, right? So I think that we'll be seeing some sort of reward program announced for Switch 2. And I think also just NSO in general. I think, you know, beyond just the kind of consoles that you get with NSO, I think it might show more features that you'll get with your Nintendo Switch Online subscription.
Do you think they'll tie themes or something to it? Maybe
Themes, achievements,
something.
chat, you know, like lobbies, you know, like the ability to lobby up with your friends. Like it really feels like as Nintendo is kind of trying to now sort of get their power up a little bit and compete with a little bit of the big guys, courting more third parties, trying to get more AAA games at launch for this new generation. You know, I think that it also behooves them to bring in a lot of the feature sets of these modern consoles, right? So I think that there will be a sizable chunk of this. I think if this is a 20-minute presentation, I think like 4 to 5 minutes or so of just like what the day-to-day using the Switch 2 is like, right? Because I don't care ultimately that the tablet is a little bit bigger and that the Joy-Cons are like slightly larger. I want to know how it's going to feel different to play games on my Switch 2 versus just playing them on my regular Switch, right? So that I think will be a big part of this, and this is going to be a really good way that they can kind of set themselves apart from what the Switch 1 was able to achieve.
I have a semi prediction here.
Please.
That I just kind of thought of. This makes me think, obviously, hopefully not the only feature, but I really think, I feel like they wouldn't have emphasized the mouse if they didn't want us to use it outside of a game too. So I'm kind of hoping a mouse means it's like, hey, the eShop's been revamped. You can actually scroll down and your Switch won't catch on fire. And you can like click and you can point on like a keyboard or type on the keyboard or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also just like, they need to go back in time a bit and just give us like a nice little song in the shop. I miss that.
It's personality. It's the personality
like,
I miss.
It sounds silly, but like I want it.
It was part of their branding. I don't think it's silly at all. I think it was part of their identity, and that identity is gone now.
Mm-hmm.
That goes hand in hand with that like whimsy that I keep talking about missing. That I worry they have fully moved away from.
You think it's dead completely?
The whimsy's dead.
I would love to see it come back. I'm not hopeful. Would love to be proved wrong.
Just to agree real quickly with Jay is I think if the OS has, you know, additional features, whether it's NSO stuff and, you know, whatever, I think that would be a good use of mouse mode, right? To show off that you can just, instead of pressing buttons, you can use mouse mode to navigate through whatever parts of the OS or little neat features that you get through NSO or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think whatever they do, if they add anything, any kind of flourish, it will be a step up, Because it's like the Switch was all about efficiency and speed and cutting out all the fat and bullshit, right? And so I think like they're at a point now where it's like they can afford a little bit of memory bandwidth in order to like add a little bit of flourish. So they don't really need to do much. Anything that they add here will seem like a generational leap because they held so much back like during this entire generation, right? So I think it's going to be a slam dunk for them, regardless of what they show in terms of UI and UX. But I would definitely, I'd really like them to kind of spend a good bit of time. I want to know what it's going to feel like to play this thing.
Well, I would have said that MMO might get shown off in this before the whole rumor about there being a Switch 1 Direct. So I could see that being on in either place, depending on whether it's something they're trying to push for a new tier that exists with Switch 2, or if it's something that just is a benefit to continuing being an NSO subscriber to keep people who aren't going to make the leap happy with their NSO subscription. But what do y'all think before we kind of start to close this out about NSO? Do you think we'll see anything specific in this Direct? Do you think that's something they would do later, or do you think they have to kind of do something to justify us continuing it, whether it is a hint at Splatoon or a hint at new systems or I don't know what, but.
Yeah, I don't think that the MMO is enough of a draw for a new tier of NSO, nor do I think it's a draw for, hey, this is the new feature of Switch 2. I do think that it would be probably good if it was a Switch 2 exclusive because that thing kind of ran like shit on the original Switch. You know what I mean? It was like definitely like, okay, there are 1,000 people on screen at once right now. And my Switch is like about to blast off into space when I was playing that thing in the brief amount of time that I was actually able to play it before my Japan trip. But I think we will see an expansion of NSO, definitely. And I think we will see a new system. There's been a rumor going around, and I hate this rumor because the way that Nintendo has handled GameCube has been so slipshod and kind of all over the place and scattershot, really. But there was a patent for a GameCube style controller, right? And they have put out controllers for every system that is on NSO, other than Game Boy, I guess, but even including, the fucking Sega Genesis got a controller officially from Nintendo, right? So I think that if there's a new GameCube controller coming, I think that does mean GameCube support will be added to NSO.
Smash.
Or just Smash, right? Yeah. But it's crazy, by the way, that Smash 64 still hasn't shown up.
That too.
Right?
What the hell?
That's insane. Maybe that'll be in this Thursday's Direct.
That would be a great one. Honestly, that would be great.
Get me pretty excited. Yeah.
I would play that again. Yeah.
But at this point now, I'm kind of bought in on GameCube being added to Nintendo Switch Online. So yeah, I could see that definitely being something that's added that is exclusive to Switch 2. They could certainly do it on Switch 1, but I think that's enough of a draw past the MMO. I think much more than the MMO. I think that's a pretty big draw for Switch 2. What do you think, Summer? You have any kind of NSO prediction?
I could see the Splatoon 3 DLC getting tacked on.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever buy that, Patrick?
No. So I hope Summer's right.
Yeah. Similarly, Patrick, I could see them tacking on the DLC because I would like to play it as well. Was there any other major DLC that could potentially be added?
Nintendo isn't doing as much DLC these days.
These days.
They've slowed down considerably.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, they've also slowed down on their big games too, though.
Yeah.
And I remember them saying they were going to make a push on it too at one point. But anyway.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten any Tears of the Kingdom DLC yet, so
that's
I don't think we will.
No, I think we will. I think it's going to be in the Direct this week, and it's going to be added to NSO.
Whoa, that's crazy.
I'm surprised we haven't yet. Yeah.
Well, how do you make DLC for what already was DLC to begin with?
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. Screw it. Add the Wario games to NSO.
Yes.
I just think
any Wario game.
All of them.
I just think,
All of them.
my brain was thinking like, what were Switch games that weren't $60 besides Metroid? And I was like, the Wario games.
You know what mouse mode allows for is good pointer control on Wii games. You know, so I think that maybe we see GameCube added on launch day for Switch 2 NSO, and maybe a year or two from now we see Wii added with the mouse mode acting in lieu of actual pointer controls. Something we could maybe see.
I could see it.
Gyro has never really been a good replacement for the IR sensor on the Wii, so that's something we could definitely see. But past that, I mean, I think, you know, we kind of briefly touched on it. I think more than anything, I think that this is going to be a lot of catering to a hardcore gaming market, and I do think that we're going to be seeing a lot of these rumored third-party games that we've been hearing about forever, right? You know, Final Fantasy Remake, Rebirth,
That's
even
right.
maybe coming early on. We've been hearing a lot. Speaking of Final Fantasy, we've been hearing rumor after rumor after rumor about Final Fantasy 9 remake as well.
Oh, geez.
and
If that was actually announced with
Yeah.
Nintendo,
Oh,
Yeah,
as
I
opposed
could
to like
see it.
during that'd be
I
crazy.
I could see them being like Final Fantasy 7 remakes coming, and what's this? And then a little teaser, you know.
If they got
there
rights to
for-
do that first, that would actually be like kind of nuts.
I could see. I think Square is very excited about the Switch 2. You know,
Yes.
Square Enix has got to be pumped. I think that Switch did really, really well for Square Enix, right? And I think that JRPGs in general just are great for handhelds, right? So I think that they are pumped about this new system. I think we know a Call of Duty is coming. We like literally know Call of Duty for Switch 2 is coming. So I think that's something that they'll show off day one. I think we'll be seeing a lot of Microsoft support. I think we'll see Halo Master Chief Collection in this presentation. I think that also, what are some of the other things that we've heard about as well? You know, Doom. I think that, yeah, I think we're just going to be seeing like a large cavalcade, you know, like Switch tried to do that with Skyrim. It was like, we've got Skyrim, we've got
Right.
this whole game, you know, and now I think we'll be seeing a lot of stuff that is like, this shit is brand fucking new.
I wonder, and this is definitely not going to happen, if they might do like a Smash Bros. Ultimate Deluxe Edition kind of thing. I'm not going to get my hopes up. I am not going to get my hopes up. But that
With
would
rollback
be,
netcode.
Well,
Yeah.
that's getting your
that
hopes up.
or like just some sort of like, hey, we fixed our online structure.
No,
Yeah, what if they talk for 5 minutes about dedicated servers and rollback netcode on Switch 2 games?
That would be like
Well-
I really think that would be a system seller.
Like
Yeah.
you were just saying, you think they're going after a more hardcore audience, and maybe
Yep.
they
Yeah.
do, and maybe they actually do take time to talk about that.
I think so. I think it's the return of Dicto Chat. I think we'll be seeing
I missed out on
the
that,
system.
so
Yeah, I think
Gosh, that would be cool.
I mean, not necessarily Picto Chat, but like
Flip
chat
Studio.
functionality, shit like for
Or
adults. You know, it's like put on, if you don't want your kids to get random messages from people, slap on a fucking parental setting. You know,
Right.
that's what they're there for. You know, like let's you know, the people that grew up with the Switch now are going to be looking for a Switch 2, and I think that they're all a little bit more mature when the original Switch came out. So I could just see them skewing a little bit more mature this presentation in general.
Well, I think it's time for us to wrap this up. Is there any other final predictions or hopes or things y'all want to say before we close this out?
Give me a pink one. Give me Animal Crossing. Give me VR. I want pink on my head in Animal Crossing.
You want pink on your head?
Like pink VR. Like I want the pink. God damn it, David. I want the pink.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying too.
I want the Switch. I want the Switch to be pink. I want to put the Switch on my head. I want to be in Animal Crossing. There.
Yeah. No, I feel you. Yeah, and if Nintendo were smart, they would lead with Animal Crossing. I don't think that they will.
No, they're not smart.
I don't think it's ready. I don't think it's ready.
That's fair. I can
but-
wait.
Maybe we'll see it in the sizzle, right?
Yep.
And it's like in a big city or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh
that
yeah,
could be
give us
pretty
another city game. They
Yeah.
kind of bounce back and forth. I could see that.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Jay?
I guess my last hope / possible prediction is kind of tying back to the mouse thing. I would love it if they brought back the Miiverse from Wii U.
Mhm.
Oh, Jesus. Yes, please.
Because I missed out on that. I didn't have a Wii U. And that to me just seemed like a really fun way to like share your screenshots and make a dumb meme sometimes. Like with the mouse, it's going to be a lot easier.
Mhm. I just want Blue Sky integration.
Yes,
You
that
know,
too.
Don't need
Easier-
an API. Don't need an API for Blue Sky. You know,
Blue
Just straight up post
Sky
it.
or rip off Sony and just make the app like it just sends a picture straight to the app. It's like great, no QR codes, please.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do think that we'll get some sort of update on the phone app.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll be like Doug Bowser chopping it in half with a katana. But maybe it'll be like, you know, we're making it now to where it's an actual functional thing that you don't resent, you know, because all the features that were on it are now in the system. And now it just like is an actual companion in a way that the Sony app is, the Microsoft app is for screenshots and sharing and stuff like
Right.
that. I could definitely see that as well. But look, either way, I think I'm just very, very excited to see this. I'm going to just any new little feature is going to tickle me, right? So I think we've got kind of. I feel like we didn't go through any like really crazy predictions this episode because Nintendo's marketing for this hasn't been crazy so far. What they've shown to us hasn't been crazy. It's all seemed pretty incremental so far, and I think those are the safe bets. But I would love to see something completely random that none of us really predicted.
Mhm.
And I think that is pretty likely that we'll get at least one thing that nobody kind of thought of. Maybe that's connected to the C button. Maybe that's just something we don't even know exists. But either way, I am super pumped for this, and I cannot wait to do our live episode with an audience actually talking about everything that we're breaking down from this direct.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our discussion on the Switch 2 Direct. In advance of it, we are going to take another break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the games we've been playing recently. I have really only played Persona 5 Royal, or the main game I've been playing. That's all I played this past week. I haven't had a lot of time to play, so I just chip away at it. I literally fell asleep playing it last night. Like, because I was so tired and I was playing it in bed. So it's kind of probably not the best game to fall asleep to, but it's happening. I don't know. I'm chipping away at it, but I don't have a lot of time. So it's probably not, again, the best game to be playing in small chunks, but I am doing it and I just love it. I don't know where I'll stop because I don't know if I can see it all the way through.
You can, Patrick, you can do it.
You can definitely do
You're
it.
going to do it and you're going to get that third semester.
Yeah. Well,
I believe
how
in
many hours into the game are you right now?
I don't know. Last time I looked, it said 15, but that was a while ago.
Oh, you're like in the tutorial still.
Yep. Still the tutorial.
Well, have you finished the first dungeon? Have you like?
Yeah, I'm in the
Okay.
second one. I'm
Okay.
in the
Alright,
second
there you go.
palace.
Hell yeah.
Probably about halfway through the second palace.
Nice.
I
love
give
that
or
game.
take. So
So you murdered that volleyball coach or whatever. Spoilers.
yeah.
Yeah. Good for you.
But yeah, that's it really. What a weird fun game.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to get some burgers. in
Mhm.
Shibuya. I'll go next. I have been playing a little bit. I haven't been playing a ton recently. I've been doing a lot of IRL hangs and watching a lot of TV and movies and reading a lot of books. But when I have been just kind of mindlessly playing games, second screen wise, I've been playing Proverbs on my Steam Deck, which is kind of a Minesweeper-esque sort of number game that you're just filling out spaces and there's just like a million fucking spaces and you're making a giant painting and it takes a really long time and it is just gonna take me forever and I'm chipping away at it and it makes me feel kind of stupid while I'm playing it because it is not challenging and it is just something to do with your hands, but I've been doing that for a while, so that's been fun. And then the other game I do want to give a shout out to is the actual new game that I've been playing this past week, and that is Nubby's Number Factory. I feel like this game is kind of like the meme game of the moment right now, in sort of the way that like Balatro was when it came out, and that, you know, you see like games that are just like the Twitch streamers are playing it at the moment, right? Like it's a $5 game, and it is a roguelike, and it is kind of a peg popping sort of game. It is a lot of fun, and it is a blast to play. And I am not great at it yet. There's a lot of like secrets still yet to uncover with this game, a lot of like synergies to really figure out. But it's like just the right amount of like the actual gameplay itself is pretty mindless, but then like picking what upgrades and synergies you want to pick and what placements you want to put them in your like item stack. That's where like a lot of your brain power is really used when you're playing this game. I want to give a shout out to RoboLettuce in the Discord for putting this game on my radar. It's a lot of fun, and I've been enjoying it quite a bit, and I've streamed it a little bit, and I'm looking forward to playing it more and unlocking some of the kind of mysteries of the game as I go. But it's got a really funny, silly aesthetic, and it's definitely worth playing. So if you've got a PC and you got $5, I really recommend Nubby's Number Factory.
Yeah, I'll go. So, as part of a game club that I am in, I just wrapped up the game Thirsty Suitors along with some friends. We picked it because we thought it would be good for discussion. And it's a totally decent game. The writing is what really stands out in this to me. It is visually really appealing. The music is also really great. I think the characters are a lot of fun. Some of them are definitely stronger than others. The gameplay itself is like fine. It's the same action timed commands for everything. Like there's a cooking. Half of the time you're like the gameplay is cooking, and half of the time it's the battles with the X's. But like the timed action commands during the battles are the same as the timed action commands for the cooking. And it's really more about the dialogue that you get, like exhausting every possible option that you can, which is a lot of fun. So storytelling wise, it's totally great. Totally enjoyed it for that reason. Like I'd give it a solid like 7 out of 10. Yeah.
Very cool. What about you, Jay?
Well, being unemployed and injured, I've had a lot more time for games. Let's see. Metaphor Refantasy. Been playing the hell out of it. I am now at the final boss, and unless the ending just like completely sucks, I'm ready to call it my favorite JRPG ever.
Wow.
Do you know that you're at the final boss?
I do. I had 3 moments where I was actually telling my girlfriend, I was like, oh, I'm at the final boss now. And then I played, it's like, oh.
Yeah.
2 more final bosses. This is definitely like the final boss.
Because I've heard that conversation a lot with this game of like,
yes.
I thought I was at the final boss, but you already saying you had 3 moments. Like
I had 3 moments like that.
Okay.
So I need to get on that. I've also been trying to clear out backlog by like genre kind of thing. So I'm also playing Persona 4 Golden at the same time. And then I am Monster Hunter Wilds. Please go get it. Please hunt with me if you're playing. And I'm also trying to finally beat Red Dead Redemption 2, a game I got on launch, just never beat it. And now I'm actually going through it and remembering like this story is so good. Like I have some minor complaints here and there, but it's a great game. Everyone should play it.
Very nice. Well, thank you, Jay. Thanks so much for coming and joining us on this conversation about Switch.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks to MilkyWay.co, who does our website. Thanks to Corduroy, who does our music. Thanks to all of our patrons on Patreon. And just a reminder that our 300th episode is coming up, and a fulfillment of that teaser at the beginning that here's a little bit of news. This has been really hard for me, and it's kind of sad news, but I am going to be stepping down from the podcast, at least in terms of being on it every week. I might still help out kind of like Matt does on the back end, or guest every once in a while if they'll have me. But life has been really busy with my new job. It's particularly where I'm not in front of a computer, and it's hard for me to follow video game news and be ready to do this. And so I'm tearing up a little bit here saying this, but I'm, you won't see quite as much of me, but I'll still be around. And thank you, David and Summer and Jordan and Matt and Jay and everybody in the community. Like, I'll probably say more stuff on the 300th episode, but I love you all, and like the community that we've created, all of us, you listening, together is such a big thing for me, and that's what makes this one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of. So
yeah.
All right. Well, and if you're looking for me online, I'm PDYX.
No.
I want to say something. I want to say something there, Patrick. We only found out that you were planning on doing this a few days ago ourselves. So I haven't had a ton of time to process that you're leaving the show, but it was hard too when Matt was stepping away from the show. But it's going to be really hard, I think, just on a personal level to not see you every week, and I just want more than just how much I think we're going to miss you here on the podcast. I just want to say how special and incredible it's been and how good of a friend that you have truly become to me over the last 6 years of doing this show. We were friends before this, but I feel, the last 6 years has really made you my brother, and I'm really going to miss you a lot, and I'm going to really miss seeing your face every week. And I'm really going to miss, collaborating with you, cause like you said, this has been, one of the, most fulfilling creative projects I've ever encountered in my life. And it's not just because I love yapping about Nintendo games, but it's because how incredible and gracious of a friend and collaborator that you are. Now I'm crying. But we love you so much. I love you so much. And you better fucking hang out with me IRL a lot more because I'm not going to be seeing you digitally as much. But I definitely wanted to say that. I love you so much, brother. And
thank you, David.
I wish you luck on all of your future, and of course also with Monochrome Heights. We will still be shouting out that game almost every single week. So good luck with that going forward as well.
All right, thank you. And then if you are looking to find me online,
Good segue.
I am PDYX.
You heard it. So if you've been listening, now you know that both Patrick is leaving and you can ask us questions for next week's episode for the 300. So
thank you for keeping us on task here, Summer.
barrel those questions in. I had to say something else besides where you can find me online after all of that. Okay. I couldn't just be like, oh, but not me time. So now me time. You can find me online at We Bewitched.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Jay? Where can people find you online?
I'm going to do the same thing really quick and just say, Patrick, you will be missed. You were an essential part of why I gravitated towards this podcasting community.
Yes.
I will miss seeing your face, but excited to see you in the Discord, and I cannot wait to play Monochrome Heights.
Yeah.
Where you can find me online. Great
We're
segue.
Sneaking in a little.
I know. I just today finally made Blue Sky because I want to get rid of Twitter. It's such a shit show.
Yeah.
So I haven't posted anything there yet, but if you want to follow me, I'm going to be on there as the Huge 27. So please give me a follow.
Very good. Definitely shoot the Huge a follow. And if you would like to follow our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Blue Sky and Twitter. We are at Super Switch Headz on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We have a website, switchheadz.com, and we have a Facebook group, a Discord, and a Patreon. Oh, did you hear that right? Yes, you can give us money. Go on Patreon, subscribe there if you can, not on your iOS device if possible, because they take a little bit off the top. But if you'd like to support us, you can. And please join us over there on the Discord. Like we have alluded to several times here, the community here is everything on this show. I think that, Nintendo podcasts, gaming podcasts are a dime a dozen, but there is truly no community in the world like the Switch Headz community. You guys are some of the most special people I've ever been able to be a part of. And thanks quite a bit, Patrick, to what you've been able to bring to this community as well. And whether or not you're a part of this show, Patrick, I know that you'll always be a part of this community, that you'll always be a part of our family. And we'd love to have you, listener, if you have been enjoying the show. If you love Patrick, you have to join the Discord because that's the only place you're going to get him. No, I'm just kidding. But please join us over there. We'd love to have you. It's such a wonderful environment to be in. That's going to do it for this episode. Wow, I'm emotional. We're going to be back next week, like we said, for our live episode 300. That's going to be at, I think, 7:30 Central Time. So that is 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 p.m. in the Pacific Time.
And fuck you, Mountain Time.
And fuck you, Mountain Time. We're not airing in Mountain Time. Okay, go outside.
Sorry to our one listener, medium quality in Mountain Time.
Sorry, El Paso.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, is El Paso Mountain Time really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's insane that there are different time
weird.
zones within one state. Anyway, that's beside the point. We will be live right here on our YouTube channel. If you are an audio listener, please consider subscribing to the YouTube so you can get notifications. Hit that little bell icon so you know when we're going live with our episode. And then if you are not a video listener and you only want to listen to us on audio, don't worry. We'll be putting out an audio version of the live stream as well. It might just come a little bit later, probably Thursday, maybe a little bit after. We'll see how it comes to it. But we would love to have you regardless in our live stream on YouTube Wednesday night, breaking down everything about the Switch 2, potentially the Switch 1 Direct, and taking listener questions like Summer said. So please tune in there. But in the meantime, gang, you guys know the drill. Stay safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. We love you so much, Patrick. We love you all as well. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.